My daughter was rushed to the emergency room after a car accident. They say she ran out onto the road unexpectedly, but for one, I can't believe it. She's a very cautious girl. She was in a comatose state, and it was doubtful she would survive. I was praying to God for her safety. But my husband seems unconcerned that our daughter was in danger. He even started talking about money in case she passed away. My husband's attitude made me distrust him. Then, our daughter miraculously regained consciousness. Yet, in the midst of my joy, she confessed something to me. You know, my dad. Hearing this, all the relatives would later become furious. My name is Francis. I'm 35 years old. I work hard every day as a company employee. My family consists of my husband Tony and my 80-year-old daughter Eva. We lived in a house together. I met Tony at a drinking party in a club I joined in college. We happened to be sitting next to each other and had a chance to talk. He was a bit of a goofball, but had a cheerful sense of humor, and he had many friends, both male and female. I really enjoyed talking with him too. We hit it off right away and started dating. We continued our relationship after college and got married 9 years ago and had a beautiful daughter. Tony and I are happily married. I have never had a fight with him. We lived happily ever after, or at least I thought so. My daughter Eva looks and acts exactly like me. Even when she was a baby, my relatives used to say she looked like me. As she grew older, she became more and more like me. My parents would say things like, "It's like Frances is back from when she was a little girl." At first, I thought it was just their patronizing comment. But then, I checked my parents' photo album. I found that Eva looked exactly the same as I did when I was a kid. Even my mother's friends joked that we looked like identical twins. But while Eva certainly looked like me, she was smarter than I was. She was speaking quite well at the age of 2, and she could read and write at an early age than the other children. Eva had many friends at school because of her kindness and leadership qualities. I may be a foolish parent, but Eva was smart and bright, and I loved her very much. Tony, on the other hand, seems to be unhappy about something with such a daughter, because one day, he jokingly said to me,
"It's kind of like having 2 Frances. She doesn't look anything like me. I wonder if she's really mine. I don't think she's that cute."
His words offended me. I mean, if you're proud of your children's excellence, but to say she's not cute, what the hell kind of an idea is that? I was glad Eva was asleep when he said that, but she would have been absolutely heartbroken to find out that her father thought of her that way. And I didn't like the way he made it sound like I was cheating on him. So I argued with him. What a thing to say! She's our child, so don't say such a terrible thing about her not being cute. And what's this, are you sure it's mine? What the heck? Can you even tell the difference between what you're allowed to say and what you're not allowed to say? Tony must have realized that I was really angry, because he rushed to defend himself.
"I'm just kidding, just kidding. Don't get so seriously angry. I'm sorry. I won't say it again."
Tony apologized, and I forgave him for the moment. I felt a little sorry that I had gotten a little angry too. But later on, I wondered. I wondered why I didn't scrutinize Tony's comment more at that time. I would regret it. Tony also works as an office worker, so we are both very busy. We have been sharing the household chores since the beginning of our marriage, and have been doing well. However, he told me that his company's business was in a slump. In order to fix it, Tony has become even busier. Overtime work has increased, and working on holidays is commonplace. Plus, his salary and bonus were cut drastically. It was not unusual for Tony to have to stay overnight at work, and so his time at work was drastically reduced. I don't think it's fair to overwork employees this much, no matter how bad the economy is. I suggested to my husband that he change jobs.
I've worked for this company for many years, and I want to support them. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused you, but I can't just walk away when my boss and my coworkers are working so hard. The company's economy is going to pick up in a little while, so please bear with me for a while longer.
I understand why he doesn't want to part ways with his boss and coworkers, so I couldn't say no to Tony's desperate request. I had to work more overtime on my end, because my husband was paying me less money for us to live on. I don't stay overnight like he does, but I still get home late. I like my job, and I'm doing it at my own pace, so it's not a problem. But Eva spends more time with the sitter, so I feel sorry for her. I'm sorry, Eva. Mom and Dad have been busy. When we get some time off, we'll go somewhere together as a family. I said this to Eva, as if I was trying to explain myself, but she never blamed me. Mom, I'm a strong girl, so I will be fine, and I'm proud of you and Dad for working so hard. My daughter tries to cheer me up like that, even though she must be lonely. She's just like me, in the way that I'm always thinking of others to the point that I start losing weight. I felt bad that she had to put up with everything, so I decided to give her a present. I bought Eva a smartphone. A smartphone might be a little too early for an 8-year-old, but my daughter was good with electronics. She could use my computer, my phone, and look things up. Maybe she has a talent in that direction. I figured that if she had her phone when I was away from home, we should be able to have a conversation online, even if I couldn't reply right away. Predictably, my daughter was overjoyed when I gave her the phone. I know it cost you a lot of money, Mom, but I'm glad. Thank you. Eva's smile made me happy too. Up until that moment, I had thought of the house as a busy but fun place to live. So I had no idea that such a big event would happen. I was working overtime at work that day. I was working, sighing and thinking how busy I was when my phone rang. It was the hospital calling.
Your daughter has been rushed to the hospital.
I was shocked to hear this information, and my mind went blank. In case of emergency, Eva carries a note with my phone number on it and keeps it in her bag. That's why the hospital called me right away. I told my boss what had happened and immediately took a cab to the hospital. When I arrived at the hospital, a nurse explained the details to me. She told me that she was driving along when she saw my daughter suddenly run out into the driveway. I didn't quite believe her story. Eva is a very cautious person, and it would never occur to her to run out into the road. However, the woman didn't seem to be lying. According to her story, it looked like someone pushed her out of the way. There are a lot of things to think about, but first of all, I just want my daughter to be safe. I was hoping that she would survive. That's all I could ask for. According to the doctors involved in the examination and treatment, my daughter had been hit on the head and was in a critical condition unconscious. They said it was a 50-50 chance that she would survive, and that there was a possibility that she might not regain consciousness.
Please be prepared for any emergency.
When he told me that, I fell to the ground in shock. Why should my precious daughter have to go through this? A little later, Tony arrived at the hospital. When I explained to him about my daughter's situation, he looked down with a despairing expression on his face.
Oh no, maybe something was troubling her, because why would she run out into the road on her own?
I don't know what to do, Tony. If she doesn't wake up, I will.
Don't lose heart. I hope Eva survives, but if she's unconscious, you might want to prepare yourself.
I don't know if I'm losing my mind, but Tony said he was ready to give up. That's when I noticed something. I thought I saw a grin on Tony's face before he turned his head. I thought it was an optical illusion or my imagination, and forced myself to forget it. Later, my parents-in-law, my brother and sisters-in-law came to the hospital to pray for my daughter's safety. We all waited in the waiting room and in the hallway, hoping that she would regain consciousness. But the next day, Eva did not regain consciousness. I was depressed, but my relatives encouraged me, saying, "It's going to be okay, and you have to stay strong." I somehow managed to pull myself together. Eva was on the brink of death, and there was no way I was going to give up now. Eventually, it was decided that it was going to be a long day, so I decided to get our bags ready. The relatives disbanded for the time being, and I was left alone with Tony at the hospital. Then, he said something I couldn't believe.
Eva is not going to make it, and now I don't have to pay child support. I'm going to take this opportunity to make this very clear, Francis. I want a divorce.
With that, he offered me divorce papers with his signature on it. I was aghast at the offer, which was so sudden. Huh? What are you talking about all of a sudden? Eva might still be alive. And what the hell is this divorce thing all of a sudden? You've never acted like that before. In response to my question, Tony said,
I've been thinking about it for a while.
Does he have any idea how insane he sounds under the circumstances?
I can't see you as a lady anymore. You are too serious for my taste. I'm not sure we can make it as a couple anymore.
There was something in his words that stuck with me. Is it possible that you love someone else?
I want to marry her, but I don't want to pay alimony and child support.
Is that why you're asking for a divorce at this point?
Well, that's not it. I just simply felt I couldn't go on living with you.
Tony denies it, but his eyes are looking from side to side, and it's obvious he's lying. I was tempted to pursue this or that, but now was not the time. Right now, we need to pray for Eva's safety first and foremost. Let's talk about the divorce later, because right now, all I want to think about is Eva.
That's what you're trying to get away with, isn't it? I won't be fooled. Now sign these papers.
The relatives returned just as Tony was pressing me to do so. Tony rushed to put the divorce papers back in his bag. Apparently, he didn't want his relatives to hear about the divorce. I decided to go through with it because it was convenient for me. All that mattered now was Eva's safety. Please, God, please save Eva. Perhaps my prayers were answered, because on the third day, she miraculously regained consciousness. My family and I wept and rejoiced, but Tony was pale and trembling. At that moment, he muttered to himself,
"Oh no, I didn't think."
My husband's mumbling were so small that only I, standing nearby, could hear them. Why was he so upset? I would later discover the reason in my daughter's words. Eva's eyes were vacant, so I desperately asked her, "Are you all right?" She stared at me for a moment, and then told me something. "Mom, Dad pushed me into the road." Everyone in the hospital room froze at Eva's sudden revelation. and we all looked at Tony. He could not say anything. He was only shaking. From the way he looked, he knew his daughter was telling the truth. Furthermore, Eva wanted me to take the phone in her bag, so I took it out. She instructed me to check the audio with the recording function, and I did as she instructed. Then, suddenly I heard Tony's excited voice.
I enjoyed our last date, Michelle. You're such a cutie. I'd stay with you forever if I didn't have a wife and daughter in the way.
It was a voice that clearly indicated Tony was cheating on me. According to my daughter, she heard her dad talking to the woman he was cheating on me with at home and immediately recorded it. Eva then confronted Tony. Do you have someone else you like besides Mom? Tony stared at Eva with a scary look on his face.
Don't ever tell Mom. If you do, you will be in big trouble.
I stared at Tony when I heard that. What the hell is wrong with you?
Hey, Eva, it's a crime to record people talking without their permission. And Francis, did you buy your kid a smartphone? She's not ready for that yet, so don't spoil her.
Tony is trying so hard to change the subject. Of course I'm not fooled. Huh? Don't play games with me. Spit out the facts. I yelled at him, and Tony started making excuses for cheating on me.
No, I wasn't cheating. I was just talking on the phone with a colleague at work.
I don't care about that. Now I'm asking if you pushed Eva.
Well, I wouldn't do that, would I?
Tony tries to make excuses, but he's clearly acting suspiciously. His relatives are also looking at him with wide eyes, as if they too find Tony's behavior suspicious. My father and father-in-law are especially furious.
You son of a...
He punches Tony in the face, and the rest of the relatives yelled at him. I can't believe you did that to your own daughter. You even cheated on your wife. Holding his beaten face, my husband started to cry and began to make excuses for the affair.
I wanted to marry Michelle. She's 10 years younger than me. She's young and she is hot. It cost a lot of money to date her.
This I later found out. Michelle is indeed young and pretty, but she's quite a scatterbrain. Tony lied about the company's business downturn so that he could go out with her. He was paying for her. I questioned him further. If I'd found out about the affair, you'd have to pay alimony in the divorce. So you hid the affair from me, huh?
It's bad enough that Terp app found out. You should have kept your mouth shut, but you recorded it.
But you're trying to kill my daughter. You are out of your mind. But he refuses to admit that he tried to kill his daughter.
Eva is lying. I wouldn't have pushed my own daughter into the driveway, would I? I'm not that evil. And I don't think anyone would believe an 8-year-old kid like that.
You are a coward to the end of the line to get away with it after all this time. My fists shake with anger. If that's what you want, I will do the same. I stood before him in an imposing manner. I heard where Eva had her accident. It's a pretty big street, and there are surveillance cameras all over the place these days for security. More and more cars have dash cams. Tony was puzzled by my sudden remark, but I didn't care. I continued. I'm sure the police are checking the security cameras. If they don't find out anything, I will make a post on social media about that area, and to see if the dashcam caught your behavior. This is where Tony went pale. If you want, I will check out every store on the main street. I will show them your picture and ask them, have you seen this guy? Then, we'll get to the bottom of it. Tony got panicky when I told him that.
Don't do this!
Then, He started crying and telling me what happened.
Michelle threatened to tell the company about the affair if I didn't marry her. If Eva was gone, they would never find out about the affair, and I wouldn't have to pay alimony and child support. That's what I thought.
I stared coldly at Tony, who looked desperate. How could this man risk Eva's life for his self-preservation?
I'm breaking up with Michelle, and I will work hard for you from now on. So please don't call the police.
With these words, he finally lost it. What? How can I forgive you? I can't believe you would put your own daughter in an accident for the sake of your unfaithful partner. How can you say please don't divorce me or please don't tell the police?
That's because
I'm going to report you to the police. Of course I'm divorcing you, and I'm getting alimony and child support. You're a disgusting person and a terrible father. Don't you ever come near me or ever again. Tony is sobbing on the floor, looking miserable, but no one was there to help him. Tony was later arrested, convicted, and sent to prison. I signed Tony's divorce papers and filed for alimony against him and Michelle, the woman he had been having an affair with. I also demanded child support. Tony's portion would be paid by my in-laws on his behalf. They said they will make sure he pays them back when he gets out of prison. But even if he gets out, Tony will have a tough future ahead of him. Michelle resigned from her job after the company found out about the affair. She also owes money to her parents and has been paying me alimony. Her parents disowned her, and she's having a hard time making ends meet. She's now living in a cheap apartment and working part-time. I, on the other hand, have returned to my parents' house, and I'm living a peaceful life. Eva is recovering well, and was discharged from the hospital. Now I'm raising Eva with the help of my parents' support. I will continue to gently watch over my smart daughter's growth.